Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down, the greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concerts that made us.com.
Hi, this is Jason here from Gage, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
Never forget the morning they called me. Said I should come soon, it's an emergency. Red speeding car with tires grinding ground. Could this maybe be the last time? Are we running out of time? Walking through the hospital passages nervously, realizing the situation is so real. Exchanging words like presents. I love you, I love you too. Could this maybe be the last time? Are we running out of time? Are we running out of
Jason, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, man.
It's great to have you. I'm looking forward to getting some insights into your music, especially the upcoming album now. So we kicked off the show with Baby B. It's off the upcoming album, World Below You, which is released on the 7th of April. Can you tell us a bit about the track?
Yeah, the track was basically written for my ex fiancé. She passed away due to COVID 2 years ago,
I'm so
and
sorry.
so the song, yeah, so the song basically was written for her. Yeah.
I see, I see. It was co-written with Theo from Springbok Nude Girls. He also mixed the album. What was it like working with Theo?
Theo Crous is absolutely such an amazing producer and engineer. Um, he's world class. He's got the world of experience, and he's also, he's recorded so many artists, over in South Africa, which have really made it very, very big, and a lot of these bands are touring all over the world, and he's recorded so many of these bands' albums. So, for example, like Prime Circle, Barlow Tones, Dan Paklansky. I don't know if you've heard of a blues guitarist called Dan Paklansky from South Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
He's recorded Dan Paklansky's albums, and he's recently just got back from Los Angeles, where he recorded a band in LA, and and he played a couple of songs to the Americans of our new stuff, and they really enjoyed it. So it would be very nice to actually maybe go to Nashville
Yeah.
and see what we can do there. That'll be fantastic. But Theo Craft is an absolutely such an amazing guy, and his skills are just unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I suppose, like a lot of people, I knew him through the Nude Girls, and when I found out that he actually mixes and masters music as well, I was just amazed. And like you mentioned, finding out who he has worked with in that regard, it's unbelievable.
No, for sure, he's really, really. I am so glad that we went with Theo Grass for this new album. He mixed the album so nicely, and then because we actually took originally we took 5 songs for mixing to him, and then we decided, you know what, let's just do a full length album. So Theo, myself, we co-wrote Baby B together, and he played some extra guitars on some of the other tracks, and mixed them so beautifully. So and he did some nice instrumentation on the tracks and stuff, and he played some bass guitar and some acoustic guitar in some of the tracks, and some electric guitars. So we've the album is rich with some very good talent on the album. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And the album deals with some kind of very dark themes. What was it like channeling so much tragedy into the music?
Well, a majority of the album was also I also lost my dad about 3 years ago. My dad passed away, and my dad never ever got to hear any of the songs that we wrote. So, "Will Below You" was actually also a tribute to my late father. So there's a whole lot of mixed emotions throughout the album, but there are also, I must say, there are some very positive songs in the album as well. For example, like a song called "Rise" that we did. It's a very inspirational song, um, and it's the lyrics are very, very positive, and it gives hope as well to a lot of people. So.
And it's taken 5 years in the making. How does it feel to finally be getting it out and let people hear it?
Oh man, at times I was so frustrated because I thought, it's never gonna get there, never gonna get there. Um, Initially, the album started off with a guy called Theo Janse van Rensburg. He produced our previous albums, and Theo actually immigrated to Spain. So then we were this is like throughout middle of the album. Then we had to change producers. We eventually ended up with JP from B Sharp Studios in Johannesburg, Boksburg. He recorded and checked some of the songs, and those were 5 songs. So we wanted to originally release a 5-track EP, and then I wasn't really convinced that that's 100% the sound that we're looking for. It was recorded, to tracked properly, everything, but we wanted to go for slightly harder sound, some bigger guitars, a little bit more of aggressive kind of sound. And that's when I contacted Theo, and I said to Theo, would you be willing to remix the 5 songs? And then it just started becoming such fun. And then eventually we sat down and we said, you know what? I think let's just release a full length album. Then I went back to the drawing board in my little hometown, Kimberley, and I started doing some pre-production on some new songs. And I was exchanging some of the ideas to Theo Crous, and that's how it went. I spent a lot of times, actually, quite a few months, actually going up to Cape Town to Theo Crous, and Theo was he was so cool about it. We would just grab 2 acoustic guitars, and Theo would say to me, "Okay, play the riff. Let me hear. What have you got?" And then he goes, and then he would add his little bit, and that's how the songs actually developed, especially Baby B. It took such a lovely turn, actually. So yeah, that was fun, but it was a long time. It was frustrating at times, but I think also we didn't just rush the album for the sake of just putting an album out there. We were selective on the songs. We chose the songs carefully, and the production is very, very good. So yeah, I think that it was worth the wait.
Are you guys the type of musicians now that once the album is done and it's out, you're straight onto the next one, or do you kind of let the music settle for a bit before you think about the next project?
Um, there's always if a person really looks at the history of Gage, there's always been like a 2-3 year gap between the albums. This one's obviously a little bit longer, but I think it's quite nice to be able to have this album do its thing on radio and perform the songs live. But I think it's also important um, to really start with some new material and try and look at another album already. You know what I mean? So that you've got a nice backup again for something new again.
True, true. And as well as Theo, the album features some other well-known South African musicians. How did you go about wrangling so many of them onto the one album?
One of my best friends, Mark Buchanan, we used to play. We used to play in a couple of projects in Kimberley, in our little hometown, many years ago. And since then, when Mark moved up to Johannesburg, he played with some well-known bands like Just Ginger and Max Normal, which later became Die Antwoord. I don't know if you've heard of a band called Die Antwoord.
It sounds familiar, all right.
With Waddy Jones. Yeah, they were actually very big South African export. They made it very big, and Mark used to be the bass player for that band, for Max Normal, and we've been friends. We were little babies. We were little babies in nappies already together. So Mark is such an incredible guitar player. Um, I asked him, I said to him, what, there's this beautiful acoustic track that we want to do, and he's got so much feel, and he plays with so much color and just passion. So I asked him to play on the one track, and then there was the bass player Jasper Janse van Rensburg. He's practically played on all our albums, our session bass player. So basically I've been using him all these years to play on the album. And then I met up with a guy called Llewellyn Friend. Um, there was a certain time where our guitar player actually left the band, our original guitar player. He left for a little while, and that's when I actually just got hold of Llewellyn, and I said to him, "Hey man, would you be keen on maybe joining the band? And I want to go into the studio and record some stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So he featured on 3 of the songs of the new album. And as I said, Mark played on some of the albums, some of the songs on the album. And then Theo Crous checked some guitars and some acoustics and some piano parts and bass parts. So I think there's a nice, beautiful thread throughout the album where you can hear some very tasteful playing throughout the musicians.
At this point in the interview, I usually like to dive into my guest's history when it comes to music. So if you can now, can you remember your earliest musical memory?
Uh, that is such a long time ago. Um, you mean the first maybe the first band or the first song that I really 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 said this is why I want to become a musician. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I was very influenced by U2. I used to listen to U2 all the time.
Oh,
Um, when I was 13 years old, I was already playing in pubs.
right.
I had friends that were quite a few years older than me. We had a band called Still Roses, and these guys were very big into U2, and they would like drop cassettes off at my house and say, "Hey, Jason, I think you should learn Sunday Bloody Sunday. I think you should learn With Without You." Like so, like basically, we did a lot of U2 covers, and we were really. I was fascinated with this band. Um, yeah, so that is my experience with starting as a musician myself. That's what I used to listen to.
Ah, and growing up, did you grow up in a musical household? Was there lots of support for music in your home?
My dad used to be a fantastic vocalist. My uncle, the same. My dad and my uncle had a band for many, many years. So I would go and my mom would put me in the little carry cot right next to the speakers at the gigs. And then I would fall asleep listening to my dad sing all the
Ah,
golden oldies. And I just basically grew up. I used to go to all my dad's little band practices, and then I would sort of get a feel for the drums, and then eventually they let me like play drums, like on one or two songs at the gigs, and that's how I really got into it. But I mean, I was very influenced by my dad and my uncle. Yeah.
I'm always saying, your teenage years are when you find it's kind of always intertwined with music. You find your community through music, and so many teenage experiences are linked to songs for people. What kind of music were you exposed to by your peers during your teenage years, and how do you think it molded you into the musician you are today?
My dad was a huge Beatles fan and a Rolling Stones fan. Um, I used to love, and the Bee Gees. My dad used to love the Bee Gees as well.
Ah,
I was
right.
very fascinated. One thing that gripped me those years, I think those days, I think especially in the 60s and the 70s, a lot of those bands used to have such nice harmonies. And I think there was no auto tuning those years. Like those guys are like, you know what I'm saying? They used to go into the studio and actually just play, and if it wasn't right, they had to just record the whole song over again. There was no sort of cutting and pasting and auto tuning here, and So, but also the harmonies. I was very fascinated with harmonies. Even the bands like the Hollies, those years. I admired their songwriting, and I thought the songwriting, those bands, those years, even were writing good songs. And I remember listening to those songs like when we used to go on fishing trips. My dad, we used to drive this old Opel Cadet, and my dad used to put on like the Bee Gees and the Rolling Stones, and I think those were very strong influences, and I used to listen to a lot of that. I was exposed to that as a youngster.
Yeah, some great ones there. I wasn't expecting the Beatles or the Bee Gees now. But
Ah,
no, good
I
ones, good
surprised you
ones.
there.
And
The very old ones.
yeah, true, true. You can't beat the
Yeah.
Beatles. And as a concert goer yourself, what concerts would you say have made you?
Um, my favorite band of all time has got to be Aha. I really love them, and I was very fortunate to watch them in I think 2018 or 2019. They performed in South Africa, and I was blown away with them. And I've watched U2 twice. I've watched Sting in South Africa, um, Spin Doctors, using all those bands. So, but I think my biggest thing was I just they blew me away as a live act. It was so good.
Yeah, that's actually a first now on the podcast that they've ever been mentioned. I've always thought to myself I wouldn't mind seeing them. They're kind of one of them bands that, for me anyway, are always in the background. When they come on, their songs. You don't know how you know them, but you know them and you like them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't actually realize that. They had this. They had all those hits like "Sun Always Shines on TV" and "Living Daylights" and all that. Those are the pop songs, "Take on Me" and everything. But they were actually, the later albums like "Analog" and all those were brilliant albums. It's like it's not pop at all. It's actually very melancholy. It's very different to the stuff that we used to listening to on the radio. And I think that is what drew me to the band musically, and their songwriting is just so good. Just very, very good.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And for any of the listeners that haven't caught one of your shows, what can they expect?
Lots of energy. um, a raging, bouncing drummer that does vocals, which is unusual, I think. There's not many bands where you can actually come to watch, where the drummer is the main vocalist.
That's something I actually wanted to ask you. How did you even come up with that you're going to drum and sing at the same time? That's near impossible.
I think I started actually playing on little suit on my school suitcases at a very young age with teaspoons. And I would just automatically just sing along and just make up my own songs, or just, as I said earlier, maybe just play along to the Beatles on my suitcases or my school desks. And it became quite natural just to sing and play drums at the same time. So I think it just fell in place. That's how it worked.
It definitely worked anyway.
It worked, yeah. Worked on my mom's nerves as well, because she used to get very angry with me. She would walk into the room and just grab the suitcase and say, "Enough is enough now, my boy."
Oh man. And you guys, you've played festivals and toured overseas. Now, after speaking with so many South African musicians, I know that's a major accomplishment. How do you guys get to the level where you can actually make that dream a reality?
Our first tour that we embarked, first international tour that we embarked on was in 2016. All our tours are self-financed, and basically we take a year in advance. We take a year to set up all these gigs, and we've got a couple of South African friends overseas in the UK. We're very fortunate. There's a guy that's got like a sound company, and he's got an old panel van.
Right.
which we can tour in. It's still past the MOT, so we were very fortunate. But I think like the 2016 tour, the van was very rusted. 2017 more rusted. 2018 very rusted, and then the last year that we went in 2019, it didn't pass the MOT.
Right.
So, like, but it was. I was very sad when Cameron said to us, "You cannot use that van anymore. We need to find something else," because we spray painted our names. We played some festivals like Mugstock in Glasgow. We did the Drunken Monkey Festival, and then we did the French Festival in Edinburgh. We did that one. That was fantastic. But getting back to your question, all of these tours were self-financed. We saved up. We played a lot of terrible gigs. Loads of terrible gigs just to save up money to actually go and play to some festivals, to play to some fresh people, fresh faces, and they enjoy rock music over there, and that is what I love about it.
That's for sure. And how do the gigs overseas compare to the gigs at home?
Much different, much different. The rock scene in South Africa is very, very small. There's hardly a rock scene in South Africa. So basically, we've got a much bigger fan base in the UK as in South Africa. So our band does a lot better overseas than in our own country.
Yeah. And I have to ask, do you find that, when you tour overseas and you return home, you're kind of perceived differently? It's almost like, oh, these guys are big shots now, they've made it.
Yeah, I think I think they see the glamour, and they see all of that, and they, this band's just got back from overseas in UK. but they also don't see the struggles, and they don't see, like, the what we need to go through. I think a lot of them think, we stay in 5-star hotels in the UK after every gig, and we've got helicopters that drop us off onto stage. But what they don't know is that a lot of times we just end up sleeping in the venues.
Right.
The club owner feels sorry for us. He goes, "Okay, guys, you can sleep in the venue." I remember we ended up sleeping in a venue on an old church bench.
Right.
An old leather couch. We spent a week at this venue in the UK, and this lady, Brunilda, she felt so sorry for us. And she goes, "Guys, I think you can just stay here, but one of you must sleep with a dog. Maybe the dog's going to get on the couch every now and then. But you guys can help yourselves to some coffee in the bar." And then, but I think after a week, she would go, "Guys, I think it's time to move on." So a lot of, it's not all like glamour, and there's a lot of struggles where you can't find a place to stay, so you sleep in the combi or whatever. But when we do get back, our whole our mindsets are different. Definitely, it's they do see you. I think they do take you a lot more serious, because I think they sort of see, okay, these guys are serious about their music, and they're taking their music to the rest of the world. So I think a lot of people do admire us for doing that. It takes them doing some guts to actually do that. It's not the easiest thing.
Yeah, definitely. You have to kind of take the leap and see what happens. And out of all the gigs you've played then, what gig experience would you say you revisit over and over again as maybe the perfect gig for you?
I enjoyed the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh. That was fantastic. We actually had the festival lined up in the old church over there. And we were like sort of the headline band, which was fantastic. There were like 400-500 people in the hall, in the whole venue. But we were so well received. Like a lot of people didn't know the songs, but a lot of our choruses are so catchy. So we would like stop in the middle of the song, and then there's a song that we have. It's called "Empty Spaces." So like the people could actually just they could latch on so quickly to the songs, because the choruses are very catchy. So that was like a fantastic experience, because like after that, like people would after the gig they go "Empty Spaces," and then we had another song called "Control." The main chorus is "You spin me out of control," and for us that was like amazing, because everybody was just enjoying the band and singing along, and it was just such an energetic kind of gig. That whole Fringe Festival was beautiful. We've had a lot of nice ones, but I remember that one as standing out as being really, really nice and good.
Only every gig could be like that, huh? And out of all the gigs, to flip it around, is there a gig you would say is the worst experience you've had, and how did you deal with it?
I think the we actually played just to a sound engineer once.
Right.
And then we wanted to like we were told that there's going to be quite a few people at the gig. So we drove from our hometown. We drove all the way. It was like a 7-hour journey to Johannesburg from Kimberley. And it was a door deal.
Right.
Lucky enough, we had a TV appearance that we had to do. So we went through for that, but we were very excited about playing this gig. And then when we got there, there was another band that played before us, and we thought, okay, maybe we're starting a little bit too early, or what's the story? And we, eventually we just said, what, let's see this as a paid rehearsal. Let's just play. And fortunately for us, we actually played. The actual sound engineer was a main organizer of a very big festival called the Strab Festival in Mozambique. And he called us and he said, "Guys, I take my hats off to you. Like, you guys just played your hearts out to me. But I am the main organizer of Strab Festival. Would you guys like to play the Strab Festival next year?" And we were like, yeah, man, must we do another set? And it ended up like such a big joke and everything. And then we ended up playing the Strab Festival after that. Like, but I mean, it actually turned out to be quite a worthwhile gig doing. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like it. And, you know, when you're on tour, what kind of wild antics do you guys get up to?
What kind of nonsense do we get up to, eh?
Yeah.
We are actually very, very good guys. We don't take things out of control. We actually after the gig we would just go and buy a nice burger or something, um, or play darts or play or like we enjoy playing pool, a lot of pool, snooker. That's what we do. Like, but we're not. We actually I think we're quite a good rock and roll band.
The choir boys of rock and roll, huh?
Yeah.
And what's your pre-show and post-show ritual? How do you psych yourself up, and then how do you wind down afterwards?
I like to wind down with a very big Guinness after the gig.
Right, right.
And then before the gig, I feel our whole vibe is actually just to connect with the audience, you know. So we would like before the gig. I know a lot of bands would before they go on stage, they would basically sit backstage and just we do that. We would like warm up with some nice harmonies, and Lyle, our guitar player, he plays like a 7-string Jackson. So he would sit there and sit on the couch and just go over the stuff, and we would go a couple of harmonies and just go over the set and all that. And then we would like sort of mingle with the crowd. We would sort of go and chat to them and, make it like a very homely, intimate kind of vibe, irrespective of how big the gig is. We just try and connect with the people as much as we can with the audience. That is what we do.
Right, right. And, after 16 years in the game, how do you, stay fresh and stay on top of it?
Sure. Sometimes it's very, very hard to, got a lot of ups and downs. And I just think that the songwriting sort of keeps me on top of it, and then you always have to realize that music is bigger than what you are. You must never be bigger than the music. So I think just to keep yourself, you just, stay humble, and I think it's good to listen to other bands, what they are doing, and learn from other bands, and just I think you just need to look at the bigger picture and say, what it might be. We might be going through a little bit of a rough time now, but things always get better, so there are all ups and downs where you feel, oh really, and then you just push forward and you push through and you just make it happen again.
All right. I like that. I like that outlook. And as a band, how do you guys measure success?
Oh, I think if you can play one of your own songs, there doesn't have to be 1,000 people there. If you can just connect with one person or two persons or two people that can really say, wow, that is such a cool song, that is just, I think that is an accomplishment for someone to appreciate what you do. And that is how I measure it. I don't measure it by album sales or anything like that. I just be truthful to what you do, and that is what you must do. That's how it must be.
Yeah. As long as you're touching people with the music. Yeah.
Sure.
And say in 30 years' time, you're old, grey, you're probably playing gigs in the nursing homes.
I'm already grey.
Well, greyer.
I'll be a lot greyer.
You're playing the gigs in the nursing homes. You look back at your career. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, legacy. That's a tough one. I just want people to remember us, to remember our songs, and to remember the name, and to just to have that kind of thing in their minds,
It's a good one. It's a good one. Before we dive into the last couple of questions, then, I'm looking forward to this. Tell us your future plans, gigs, music, everything.
Our future plans is to, we want to go back to the UK next year. We've already been invited to play the Drunken Monkey Festival, as well as a lot of the UK festivals. And we also want to try out Germany as well. We want to try and tour Germany, and then we want to come try and play for you guys as well.
That would be great. That'd be. I was hoping you'd say something like that. It'd save me a plane trip to the UK or Germany, I suppose.
For sure. With my previous band called the Sunways, we toured Northern Ireland and Belfast for 4 months.
Geez, 4 months. It's a tiny country. What did you do for 4 months?
Stay in a microbus with a sleeping bag and drink a lot of vodka.
Sounds like a good 4 months.
Absolute vodka. Yeah, so actually, one of my friends, he was the main guitarist for Sunways. He's based in Ireland at the moment, and he's taken up like an acting career now. I don't even think he even plays guitar anymore. We would really like to come. We really would like to come to Ireland and play there for you guys.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great. And it's not too far across the ocean from the UK. You could literally get the ferry across and be back for the next gig.
Jeez, I'd love to do that. Well, that would be something really special.
Yeah. Right, we'll dive into the last couple of questions. So, if you could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
Freddie Mercury.
Right. I like the quickness in the response.
Absolutely. That's like Freddie Mercury. What a performer, what an artist, what a voice. I would have loved to see him live.
Yeah, the absolute ultimate. And if you had to spend 24 hours locked inside a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Jeez, I would say Sting.
Right. Really?
Yes.
I've heard he can be quite temperamental, though. It might not be a good 24 hours.
It might not be, but I think I can learn a lot from him.
Yeah, true.
I'll just take some duct tape. I've got all the info, I'll just duct tape his mouth.
Yeah. And what song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. Wow, that is a very difficult one. Sure. Could I get back to you on that one?
If you must.
Okay. Oh, that's a difficult question.
It is, especially when you're put on the spot like that. And the final one, so to flip it around, is there something I should have asked you?
When are we coming to Ireland? When exactly, Jason?
Yeah, I need the exact hour. Oh, man. Listen, Jason, it's been an absolute blast. Genuinely, it's one of the most fun interviews I've done in a while now. So thanks a million.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Fallen days to make me feel stronger now. I feel these days move around the sun. These fallen days are
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up the Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.